we're all used to thinking about averages. If we look at people and get the average height, that gives us a good ability to understand how people are and what we should expect in the next person that comes along. Lots of things in the world work that way, and averages are good ways of thinking about them. But lots of things don't work that way.
One example is the huge difference in the number of links different nodes have on the World Wide Web or on the cell. You know, some web pages on the World Wide Web, like Google, has hundreds of millions of links pointing to them. Others, like my web page, has a dozen or none, as a matter of fact. In the same way, in the cell, some of the chemicals interact with hundreds of other chemicals. Others interact with only one or two.
And so you might live in an area, for example, that requires you to be able to get together with your friends to hunt for food. If that's the case, then having lots of friends is going to be very important. And if you're raised in an environment where you don't want to be in contact with people who have deadly diseases, it might be really important for you not to have very many friends. And this is exactly the same kind of variation that we study when we study social networks, because we find that genetic variation can actually help to explain these behavioral variations that we see in the real world.
We can think of a population of people or animals or entities as being all the same, and so we can ascribe to them some properties, like the stock market went up today. In that sentence, essentially, we assume that all stocks behave the same way; they all went up. But if we look a little bit carefully, of course, even when the stock market goes up one day, some stocks went down, some other stocks didn't do anything, and some stocks actually went up.
In my opinion, not, let's say, seen from other disciplines, like, let's say, mainstream economics. Because, I mean, you have some needs, then the needs are the needs of describing a rational agent, and this is, of course, necessary to start with a scientific description. But this is quite far from reality, because in reality you have agents which might be rational, but they might be of size, of interest, of time scales, completely different.
Well, again, the individual languages, if you look in detail, that each person actually has their own language, which in some ways is very different from that of others. And the reason is that each of us has a different history of interactions with the world, with the environment. We all have different concerns that are the source of meanings in our interactions with others.
The naive view of a system is that it's homogeneous. That means if you're a little microscopic Maxwell demon swimming around in a glass of water, everything looks the same at all times. But it's exactly the opposite of this. If you are on the size of a molecule swimming around in a glass of water, you would see regions where the water is ordered in one fashion and regions where the water is ordered in a different fashion. That's what heterogeneity means. Instead of being homogeneous, a glass of water is extremely heterogeneous.
In equilibrium systems, if we deposit a drop of ink into a glass of water, we'll see how this situation is going to be homogenized through time. That is to say, we'll end up with a situation in which all water looks pretty much the same. Thus, it was very difficult to understand biology from that perspective.
Heterogeneity is a very important element in biological and social systems, while it's not so pronounced in physical systems. That's why biological and social systems are so much more difficult to understand. However, it's not only a matter of difficulty. Heterogeneity also has a functional aspect, because in many systems, heterogeneity creates a higher level of robustness.